A 2018 study found that less than 1% of the population owned about 70% of the privately owned rural land in England. In Scotland, according to government data, just 432 landowners accounted for nearly 50% of the privately owned rural land. According to another analysis, around 30% of the entire UK's land area is still owned by the aristocracy and gentry, largely the descendants of medieval barons and royal families. But we're in America. Are we still subject to this inequality of ownership? Is owning your own home really important? What does ownership even mean? We're going to dig into that and more. But first, a story. I want to introduce you to Jo. Jo was exhausted by uncertain financial circumstances. She thought her money was kind of secure in banks and her retirement accounts, but then she realized she was just numbers on a screen. Her money was just numbers on a screen, very much beyond her control. Desperate for stability, she turned to tangible assets like real estate, land, things that you could see and touch and feel, only to find that their value was uncertain as well. Then she stumbled across a contract, a promise of growth and empowerment. It was insurance. And so she was skeptical, but she took the leap. Slowly, it became her lifeline, helping her pay off her debts, reduce her taxes, weather storms. But for Jo, it wasn't a product. It was hope in a world of doubt. And though hidden, for some like Jo who seek it out, it is a beacon of light in financial darkness.
In a world where chaos seems to reign supreme, where uncertainty lurks around every corner, and financial markets are now more unpredictable than ever, there's one place you can turn to find clarity and control. Welcome to the Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast.
Hey, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Amanda.
Join us as we dive deep in the world of personal and business finance
to assist you in navigating through the chaos and building the financial future you deserve.
We believe when conventional financial thinking doesn't get you where you want to go,
you need wealth wisdom.
So if you're ready to take control of your financial destiny,
tune in to the Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast.
Because in a chaotic world, your money shouldn't be.
Subscribe now and never miss an episode.
Okay, if you're just joining us, you're joining us at a really, really awesome spot in our 12 foundations that we're doing. This is Foundation 10, How to Take Ownership and Build Financial Confidence. And with that opener about ownership of land in the UK and how does that work in America, and is ownership really important? What does ownership even mean? And then hearing Jo's interaction with ownership and finding true ownership, get ready. We're gonna have some really big aha moments that some people never get to hear. I had these aha moments a little over 10 years ago, and they've totally transformed the last decade of my life. These are the kinds of things that I want to pass on to you, and I hope will empower you to take more control, have more ownership, become a good steward of your financial future. Now, for those loyal listeners, you'll recognize there's a voice absent here. We are in the middle of summer. There's some traveling going on in our family, and Brandon's traveling right now on his own, and I'm at home with, being a single parent for a little while. But here at work, we were like, we need to get these podcasts recorded, so I'm jumping in. We'll get him some solo episodes soon because I've got some traveling on my own in the future this summer too. I hope whenever you're listening to this, if it is in the summer, that you've got some good travels coming up or some good quality time to reflect and grow. And I think summer is one of the best times that you can take control of your financial future. So if you're catching this right when it airs, summer hasn't even officially started yet, right? This comes out before the summer solstice. So you got plenty of time to really dig in. Listen to all 12 of our episodes about the foundations, and I've got a special offer for you later in the episode. Okay, so are you ready to learn something absolutely bananas? Okay, get ready for this. When we deposit our money in a bank account, when you go to the bank with your check or it gets direct deposited or you go to the ATM, put some cash in there, whatever it is, at the very moment of the deposit, the funds become the property of the bank. The bank now owns your money in a very technical, if you asked an attorney, then they read your contract that you have with the bank. That's what it says. As a depositor at the bank, you're in essence a creditor of the bank. On the bank's balance sheet, your deposit is a liability. When you make that deposit, it's like you're making a loan to the bank. And now they owe you that money in return. Now go back to our last episode to find out what they do with it and if it's really in their vaults and those kind of things. We kind of bust that myth that the bank actually has your money. But they take ownership. You're now a liability on their balance sheet. Now, how about your retirement accounts, your 401k, your IRA, your 403b, your Roth, whatever kind of retirement account you have? Do you own it? This one's kind of a yes and a no. While you might have legal title to it, those funds are taxable. They're possibly penalized upon withdrawal. They might also be at risk. You have more one day, less another day. And that makes your money partially the Internal Revenue Services, right? If it's not a Roth, right, and it's taxed later, it's partly theirs. But even if it is the Roth, the Congress could change the rules around it, and they could say, "Oh, just kidding, your taxes or your growth is now taxable," right? And then also penalized, right? There could be a bunch of penalties if you access it too early or you don't take your RMDs later. Of course, Roths and traditional are going to have different rules, but still, they could change those rules at any time. It's a government-sponsored account. And then there's the whole idea that paper wealth is not real wealth. Whatever, if you have money there, it's not really, or if you have funds there, you own stocks, bonds, mutual funds, they're only worth what you sell them on the day that you sell those to convert them into cash money, right? That you can spend at the grocery store. And if they lose significant value, right, that loss, whatever they lost, that you didn't own that, right? So you got to, kind of have that idea. Plus, the way that we do stocks, bonds, and mutual funds now, you used to get some kind of proof of ownership. People would get a stock certificate and they keep them piled up in their safety deposit boxes. Now, the only proof you have is just some ones or zeros on a computer. Even more, you still have that whole idea. It's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. What you own is really kind of phantom until that share is sold. The value can change dramatically. Now, that's drawn some people, like Joe in our story, to look toward real estate and other tangible assets like art, precious metals, collectibles. And they feel like, okay, I'm working with a physical good that has substance. I own this. And yet, it's still only as valuable as someone is willing to pay for it. Home values are increasing right now, and we've got all this wealth built up in our homes, and they could all come crashing down, right? There's a whole thing within the legal world and our laws, like squatters' rights. If you own real estate someone else lives in, you might own the title to that real estate, but if they live there and it's really difficult to get them out of that home, and if there was, a breakdown in law and order, they can claim that squatters' rights. Possession is 9/10 of the law, as they say. I might come back to this home ownership thing. If you want us to talk more about home ownership and equity and how to manage that equity well, let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, you can comment. If you're listening to the podcast, we put the YouTube link in there so you can go to the YouTube link and give us your feedback. Let us know what you want to talk about. I might come back to that depending on how long this episode goes. But really, if you think about all of these things I've talked about, your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, other tangible assets, none of these are really worthy of a financial cornerstone of a financial life where we have personal responsibility, we have control, we are able to be in control of what happens with our financial futures. We're proactive to bring our desires into reality. We're trying to have power that no outside force can take away from us, right? That's what ownership is. You have a power that no outside force can take away. What type of financial product could someone possibly own that increases this personal responsibility, this control, this power What vehicle is there that puts the owner first, protects them from risk, and helps them keep funds safe and growing for lots of life's major milestones, if not all of them? I only know of one, and it's a contract, like literally just paper, or maybe, but it's not just any kind of contract. It's not just any kind of paper. It's a unilateral contract where the individual, you or me, is the owner of this contract. And any other party to the contract cannot make changes without the owner's permission, which is you or me, right? Whoever's the owner of the contract. More than agreement or a general disclosure or a memorandum of understanding, a contract's owner can use the law to enforce that contract. And contracts are even older than titles. Like I have a title to this property. Contract law is older than ownership law. I just have to take a moment here before I talk more about this contract to talk about ownership in general. Despite these ideals of like private property, that it's totally true that no one can really own the land or natural resources in an absolute sense. At best, property ownership is a concept that's created by laws and governments that allow people exclusive rights to use and benefit from property for a period of time. And it's kind of a legal convention, not an inherent right. Land, natural resources were here long before humans existed, and are going to remain long after we are gone, potentially. Many philosophies, many indigenous cultures view land and nature as belonging to no one or to all living beings collectively. Private ownership facilitates the depletion and destruction of those natural resources for the profit of a few property holders. So, while the ability to buy, sell, and own property seems like an immutable fact of modern society, it is essentially a human-created legal fiction of the finite natural world that sustains all of us. The startling reality, is that no individual can really truly ever own something that's derived from nature itself. So, if you were counting on that land, that house, that stream by your house, the ability to grow food, right? Like those, sure, great things to count on, way better than some other things that you might build your financial life on. But I mean, maybe it's highly unlikely, but there could totally be a time when we go back to the indigenous peoples of America where no one owned anything and it was shared in common and we talked things through. And guess what? Even then, they had a sort of contract. They had social conventions. They might have been verbal contracts. Sometimes maybe they would have been signed different ways, right? With pipes or with dances or other things. And parties would have to agree to change the terms of how they related with one another. That's what we kind of mean by contract law, which has been even more codified and written down. And I'm not an attorney, but I hope when attorneys go, to the law school, they learn these kinds of where these things come from. And I'm curious, if you're an attorney, let me know. Do they talk about indigenous peoples and the social contracts they would have had with each other? Anyway, back to what we're talking about. Let's talk about this financial contract that I'm thinking of. So imagine you have a contract that said, if you put in $100 every month for 20 years, you can take out $200 for 25 years. But we'll also give you access to that $100 that you're putting in over time, plus as it's growing, some of that growth too, for those initial 20 years. And you can vary how much you want to put in. You don't have to put in $100 every month for, the 20 years. And you can also vary how much you want to take out during those last 25 years. You don't have to take out the 200 every month if you didn't want to. But 20 years, $100 a month, you can take out $200 a month for 25 years. How many of those contracts would you want, right? If it was right there in black and white, you do this, we'll do that. Here's the with flexibility and with access. Now, what if that contract was an insurance product? Dun, 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 heebie-jeebies. Oh, we just got all the feels. Right? How does it make you feel when you hear the word insurance? Now, too many people have been conditioned to feel lots of negativity when they hear that word insurance, and for many good reasons. The insurance companies fight a claim, they raise the rates, they seem to be a waste of money most of the time. Maybe insurance in most cases is a necessary evil. Perhaps with most types, that's true. But if there was one diamond in the rough insurance product or insurance company or niche within the insurance industry, would you seek it out? This diamond in the rough? Would you hire the most pure person to walk you through the desert to seek out this diamond in the rough so that you get to enter the cave of wonders? Okay, maybe that's not how it works. We're not in Aladdin here. We're in a true story. Now, I first heard about this diamond in the rough many, many years ago. And it felt like I had found a financial product that I had been looking for years, but couldn't find. It wasn't in those big, thick financial books I read. It wasn't talked about in the circles that I ran in. And it took me 6 months of like being angry that no one had told me about this before and dealing with that anger and learning more about what this alternative is and how it works before I went into implementing it full steam. I was very skeptical at the beginning too. But then we implemented it. And a couple years later, we paid off our student loans after feeling like we were never going to be able to get them paid off, right? It seemed like the balance never went down. A couple of years after that, we were able to get through a major catastrophe without going into credit card debt or having to grovel to a bank for a bank loan. Actually, getting through that catastrophic event allowed us to be in a place where we could show our business was sellable, and we were able to sell that business. And then a couple of years later, we were finally able to have a 20% down payment on a home. Then we purchased an office for our business. This diamond in the rough contract has been the foundation that without it, we would have continued to struggle for years with making slower progress. Now, what is this thing I'm talking about? You might have heard it referred to as infinite banking or bank on yourself, high cash value, dividend paying life insurance. There's many different ways people talk about it. You have to be careful. There are, just like if you found a diamond in the wild, there's different ways to cut that diamond or set that diamond. I don't know. I'm not a diamond person, but you can kind of imagine this. That you want to like go to the right jeweler, get that diamond in the rough, out of the rough and understand it, implement it, all those things. But before you do that, we have this awesome thing called 5 Smooth Stones, where there's this part here about taking ownership. And we have a QR code within the book where you can find a fantastic resource we have to help you get to know this better in a really quick, easy way. But also, we have this invitation on the next page to make a list before you look at financial products, before you decide you're going to do this or that or whatever, to look and consider what are some of those assumptions about money that you're willing to believe aren't true? And in what ways might you adapt them? And it kind of walks you through this process to do that. And then, and so forth. So get your copy of this to implement, learn more about all these 12 foundations that we're talking through. But one of the best things you can do is just in order to decide if this is the right kind of thing for you, is to start a conversation. And we have an amazing offer for you to get that conversation started with no obligation, no strings attached. We're gonna share it with you now.
Ready to take the next step towards securing your financial future? Whether you're planning for retirement, saving for your dream home, or you just want to make your money work harder for you, the team at Wealth Wisdom Financial are ready to assist you. And now, it's easier than ever to see how we might give you a boost on your financial journey.
Schedule a 15-minute discovery call with one of us today.
And let's discuss your questions and your financial goals together.
Don't wait any longer. Your financial freedom awaits. Schedule your discovery call at www.wealthwisdomfp.com/call.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up. Quick little teaser here. According to US Census Bureau, around 38% of American homeowners own their home, free and clear, no mortgage, no loan on the property, no HELOC, no second mortgage, nothing like that. That's only about 31.9 million homes that were owned mortgage free, where there's 83.8 million owner occupied housing units in the United States. So about a third of people who live in the home that they own, about a third of them get free of their mortgage. And typically those are older adults, which more than a third of our population, probably more than a third of homeowners are older adults, I would imagine. I would need to look that up. So there's tons of retirees living still with mortgages and so forth. Kind of interesting, right? Um, the thing about paying off your home is that it's complicated. It's something to think more about. So if you took that chance and you went and scheduled that discovery call, that 15-minute call with either me or somebody from our team, let's talk about home ownership too, because that's a very good like tangential thing to talk about ownership. And if you want us to do a whole episode about this whole idea, like, why do we feel it's important to have our homes paid off? What's the reason for that? Where does it come from in terms of looking at history, especially when we know if you go way back to the indigenous cultures and the original, philosophies, the idea of owning your home wasn't part of that. Where did it even come from? I have lots of thoughts about that. If you want us to do that episode, again, go to YouTube, comment, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be wrapping up with Foundations 11 and 12. If today kind of blew your mind, totally out of the box thinking, something you wouldn't typically hear on a financial podcast, just wait. 11 and 12 are going to blow your mind even more. Actually, 12 is my favorite. It is some things that really got me through the COVID-19 pandemic the first couple of years. Can't wait to share it with you. Look forward to talking to you soon. And live long and profit. And the topics presented in this podcast are for general information only and not for the purposes of providing legal, accounting, or investment advice. On such matters, please consult with a professional who knows your specific situation.